Have you ever found yourself constantly in the settings adjusting your crosshairs and you just can't find the perfect one for you? We've all been there. With how much customization there is in Valorant, it's tricky to find the exact settings that will give you the best aim. Along with that, everyone has their own unique individual preferences that make it near impossible to find the crosshair that's right for you. If this is you though, you've come to the right video. We're going to break down the 10 professional crosshair profiles that you absolutely need to try, and we guarantee that one of them will suit your needs. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. First up, we've got to start off with the one and only Tenz Crosshair. Tenz is a professional player from the current top team in Valorant, Sentinels. His crosshair is simplistic yet highly effective and adored by a majority of the Valorant community, myself included. Tenz uses inner lines 1422 with the color cyan and everything else turned off. Wardell uses the exact same crosshair as well, but with the color white. This is a standard, aesthetically pleasing small crosshair that nails all the essentials that one would want. Along with being a good size and shape, it's clearly visible and does not distract from the rest of the screen. The gap size is perfect for placing directly onto enemy heads and really emphasizes precision. Despite Tenz views favouring the Phantom over the Vandal statistically, he repeatedly has mentioned he enjoys using the Vandal more as it feels more fun and rewarding to use. His crosshair reflects that, and for any players that are looking for a minimalistic, eye-pleasing crosshair that allows you to be as precise and as accurate as possible, this is the one you should absolutely give a try. Next up, we have the Subroza Crosshair. Now, Subroza is fairly similar to the Tenz Crosshair, but with very distinct differences that can make it more preferable if Tenz's crosshair just feels like it's missing something. Subroza uses inner lines 1423 with outlines on at a capacity of 1 and thickness 1. You'll see him changing colours quite often on stream, but most often he'll switch between red, cyan and green. Despite this, he keeps his foundational crosshair settings the same throughout. While we did mention that Tenz Crosshair is clean and crisp, we also found some players that struggle to view a crosshair that's so small. Subroza's crosshair is a slightly expanded version of Tenz, and with the included outlines on, those who struggle to view brighter and lighter colours like cyan will have a much better experience with this crosshair. For those who don't like the lower offsets, the extra level bump with this crosshair will help players track enemies better and make it easier to place them into the middle of the crosshair. This is one I have personally been using more often, so definitely recommend you give it a whirl. Now, no crosshair video would be complete without mentioning the infamous Scream. While Team Liquid hasn't exactly had the best runs lately, Scream still remains a dominant player in EU, consistently racking up his stats in every game he participates in. Scream uses a fairly unique crosshair called the Dot Crosshair. It is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of that four-legged creature that you're used to seeing, Scream keeps it as simple as it gets and uses a dot. This means that he has his inner and outer lines all off, and for Scream specifically, he has the center dot on with opacity 1 and thickness 3, along with outlines on at 1 capacity and 1 thickness. If you want a crosshair that is as minimalistic as it gets and provides the least possible distractions, the Scream Dot Crosshair is worth giving your time to trying. It's not particularly aesthetic, but it gives you one focal point, literally a few pixels in which you want to put the enemy onto your screen. Particularly for long-range duels, this can be advantageous for single firing and burst firing. It can also backfire at times though, where we've had players complain that it seems to block long-range enemies. Unlike the first two crosshairs that give a gap to put the enemy in, the dot crosshair will directly block the enemy. In close range this doesn't matter because enemy models are so big, but in really long-range combat like you'd have on Breeze, the dot crosshair could be deemed annoying if you like to be able to see what you're hitting. With the dot, you're blocking what you're hitting, but if you're blocking, you're likely at the right spot to shoot and aim. Precision is what the Scream crosshair truly offers, and it definitely gives a different feel than a traditional crosshair. Give it a shot and see for yourself if this is the right fit for you. Speaking of the right fit, if you want to find not only the most optimal crosshair for you, but also the right playstyle and aiming methods that will take you to the top of the Valorant leaderboards, then you absolutely want to check out SkillCapped.com for even more detailed guides that will take you to that level. For example, we have a detailed course on how to become an aim god. A course like this will teach you all the tricks you need to out-aim the competition. If you want to truly improve, don't hesitate. The link will be provided in the description below. Going back to the NA train, we have Asuna's Crosshair from 100 Thieves. Asuna uses inner lines 1213 with outlines on at 1-1 and a white colorway. This is a very small crosshair, even smaller than the Tenz Crosshair. We've found that the pros really enjoy these smaller crosshairs as they do the job on helping them be precise while removing as much distraction as possible so players can focus on pure aim. Asuna is an aggressive duelist who likes to get into people's faces and open up space for his team. With this playstyle and a higher than average sensitivity, Asuna needs to be able to focus on spotting out enemies quickly. This crosshair does the trick of just being visible enough that you won't miss it, which opens up more mental capacity to spot enemies with his wild flicks as he pushes onto sight. If you have a playstyle similar to Asuna's, this will definitely be a great crosshair of choice. This next crosshair is from Ye, who is currently playing for the team Envy. Ye has been quite the star player recently, bringing up remarkable numbers for the team, which has now put the former carry, Victor, more on the sidelines since Ye joined the squad. Similar to Asuna, Ye is an aggressive player who utilizes duelists to allow him to pull off multiple tricks and maneuvers to outwit his enemies. With aggressive playstyles, it's important to have a crosshair that is simplistic. For top players like Ye, the crosshair is merely there for minor guidance rather than being the sole way a top player aims. So being minimal really is the way to go for these guys, as they focus more on looking at the enemy rather than the crosshair. Ye uses inner lines 1322 and color red. Red has seemingly been quite an underrated colorway. It's a bright color that isn't overly bright in a sense that it makes it hard to see the crosshair. It hits just the right spot in terms of visuals, and being slightly smaller than the Tenz Crosshair. Honestly, the difference between the Tenz Crosshair and Ye's Crosshair really will come down to preference and feel. They're both great choices, and it will come down to what feels best for you, so make sure you try both. This is arguably the most unique crosshair that originally rose to fame, being used by a proto from Luminosity, and particularly has been commonly used by Lakia from Vision Strikers. This is none other than the box crosshair. Lakia achieves the box crosshair through inner lines 1152. The box crosshair really gives a refreshing feel to it, and the nice part about it is it doesn't visually show up as a complete box. Rather, it has a curved edge that gives it more of a circular look, and it's very pleasing to the eye. This is another one that I personally have been switching into, and it really feels like a crosshair meant to hit people's heads. Place the enemy's model into the box, and boom, they're dead. For those who prefer a slightly bigger box crosshair, you can try inner lines 1163, which is what a proto commonly uses. The feel for this crosshair is really indescribable for those who need a switch from traditional crosshairs and who've also tried a dot and wasn't having it. The box crosshair is one we highly recommend players trying, and we know you won't regret it. Changing things up, there are a few top-level players who are using some slightly bigger crosshairs than the ones we've mentioned. For those who feel more comfortable with medium-sized crosshairs, these two are the ones for you. First, it's Six Crosshair. Six uses inner lines 0.8325 with outlines on and a green colorway. This is a much more spacious crosshair than we've seen so far, which has really helped players who felt the small crosshairs were too demanding in terms of accuracy and precision. For those who feel like they need more room and leeway with their shots, the bigger crosshairs of 6 will help you maintain that stability for longer duration plays at close range and medium range. Especially for a player like Sick, who likes to push hard and take aim duels, this crosshair will prove to be a menace at close and medium ranges. Similar to 6, we have ShahZam's Crosshair, which is a slightly bigger version of Subroza's. ShahZam is essentially the jack of all trades. He can op, he can frag, can cover multiple roles and agents, and consistently perform in game, leading for his team. Now, I'm not going to say that the crosshair is fully the reason for his well-rounded success, but it definitely plays a part in allowing him to multitask so effectively. ShahZam uses inner lines 0.754523 with outlines on at 0.51 and a green colorway. This crosshair is one of the clearest we've seen to the naked eye. It's not as nice and as good looking as the other crosshairs in this guide, although that is personal preference, but it stands out and can't be missed by players. For those who need an increase in crosshair size to help prevent you from focusing too hard on seeing your crosshair rather than seeing the enemy, these medium-sized crosshairs will do you good. This isn't to say that the medium crosshairs are worse than small crosshairs, but they do tend to help newer players more effectively since they're easier to visually see. The outlines also help with the vision aspect of the crosshair so that players can't miss it and will be able to focus more attention on seeing where teammates and enemies are. Alrighty, we have come to the one and only Hiko Crosshair. Just kidding, Hiko tends to change his crosshair quite often and doesn't have a consistent one that he uses. This is more notably CNED's crosshair, but we used Hiko here as he's more well-known and relatable to the community. Hiko uses inner lines 1520, with the colorway of green and everything else off. CNED uses the same crosshair but with white colors. The unique aspect of this crosshair is there is no gap in the middle. Similarly to the dot crosshair, there's no hole per se to put the enemy into before shooting, which gives the crosshair a very different feel. Rather, a crosshair such as this will have to rely more on precision and trust in the player's knowledge of where the exact center is on the screen prior to shooting. For newer players, this can be more challenging, like we mentioned with the Scream dot crosshair, where you may end up blocking your vision of enemy models, which can alter your aim. For the pros though, this isn't really an issue, and they can accurately determine where the middle of this sort of crosshair is going to be. Give it a try and see what you think, as the lack of gapping has helped some players while being detrimental to others. Last but not least, we're ending with the final small crosshairs by Nats from Gambit. Nats has really risen and proven himself to be a star player on one of the top teams in EU, despite playing a more passive role as a sentinel. For those who main sentinels, definitely give this crosshair a shot, as Nats has been using it with extreme precision, helping Gambit become undoubtedly the top team in their respective region. Nats is using inner lines 1212 and colorway green. It's simple, precise, and clean. No distractions, nothing fancy, just a crosshairs that's meant to help you aim and dominate. If you enjoyed Asuna's crosshair, this slightly smaller version could provide that small tweak and feel that gives you better accuracy. That's all we've got for this video. We hope you took something away and learned from today's guide. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. All of us here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.